Hi all, welcome to Team F's presentation. Today we'll be discussing the performance management cycle. In Berkeley's Guide to Human Resources, performance management is defined as an ongoing process of communication between a supervisor and an employee that occurs throughout the year in support of accomplishing the strategic objectives of the organization. The communication process includes clarifying expectations, setting objectives, identifying goals, providing feedback, and reviewing results. Today we'll be discussing the cycle that happens in order to manage performance in the workplace. The performance management cycle is a continuous process and can consist of the following. Performance monitoring is about monitoring how a person specifically does their job and their activities in the workplace. A measurement of how well they do these jobs specific to their goals and objectives. Informal feedback on performance from HR professionals or managers of that workplace, discussing how they can do their job better or if they are doing their job right. Regular formal reviews and feedback to discuss how an outcome has been achieved. Action planning to discuss how they can do things better in the workplace and whether training or specific activity tasks need to be more directed. And support for addressing identified performance shortcomings. The cycle needs to include regular reviews that ensure the employees' daily activities are benefiting both themselves and the rest of the company. There's no point of an employee conducting activities throughout their day that make them look productive, but at the end of the day aren't really benefiting the company or helping them to reach their goals set in the performance management cycle. We also want to ensure that the employee has set goals and performance objectives to work towards. Again, otherwise they have no point but to just look productive. We want the employee to actually be productive, but in the sense of benefiting the company. It's important to note that a constantly changing environment and economy equals a constantly changing cycle. You can't perform the same cycle for the same employee every single time you want to do a performance review because of changing factors such as changes in the market, the economy, and the performance of the company as a whole. The key elements of successful performance management are as follows. There's a creation of a shared vision done between the employee and the HR professional or manager that they are under. Establishing performance objectives, so looking at what specifically needs to be met and what requirements need to be reached in order to reach these goals. Using a formal review process to evaluate the goal achievement on the regular, so we're talking about regular feedback and monitoring of the person's specific tasks, making sure that they're on track and they're not falling off the rails. And also linking performance to rewards as reinforcement in the form of performance appraisal. Not only does this reward the employee, but it also keeps them motivated, knowing that they're going to be benefited at the end of the plan. There are 3 different cycles or systems that managers and HR professionals will use to align their employees to specific goals. The first one that we'll discuss is strategic. So this one links the employees' activities to the specific goals of the organization, meaning that all their tasks are going to link to what the company actually needs from them. It's more suited to a work environment where employees interact with other employees. And some examples of this type of method would be goal setting, objective-based or balanced scorecards, meaning that there are actual specific tasks that are lined out that the managers will know will improve the performance of both the individual and also the company if these tasks and goals are met. The developmental performance management cycle focuses on improving productivity by providing feedback, provisioning support, and setting goals for the individual. This one was more driven and directed at the employee specifically and looks at how the company can make their role better and how they can do their job better. On the job training is the most specific form of this because it specifically looks at what the employee does as a daily task, if they're doing it right, and how they can continue to improve it. It also looks at what tasks they can add to their daily task agenda. So that way, not only does it benefit the employee by making their job more enjoyable and ensure they're getting the best out of themselves, but most obviously, in return, it would also benefit the company because the employee is more productive in their role. The administrative performance management cycle aids decisions at the end of the performance plan based on remuneration. These decisions come in the form of a better pay packet or even formal recognition among the workplace of the employee's hard work and dedication to reaching their goals. This format encourages employees to achieve their goals and in return be promoted to a high position as well, meaning they're able to work their way up in the workplace hierarchy to even a management position if that's what they want to achieve. It seems that in this approach, the employees are more motivated to reach their goals because they know that there's going to be a specific end reward at the end of it. The best forms of these would be a bonus scheme or an incentive-based objective, where the employee knows that when they complete a specific task to a certain degree, they know they're going to be rewarded in some format that is most likely going to be tangible in the form of a better pay packet. We will now break down the performance management cycle and its critical success factors in order to make it both effective for the employee and beneficial for the company. It's important to note that many companies follow different performance management cycles and systems. However, their end goals are usually identical or similar. This means that every company is going to have a different method to plan and manage performance. However, at the end of the day, the end goal is usually the same, to benefit both the employee and also benefit the company in some form or manner.
It's important for organizations to align their strategic objectives and goals to the performance review process of the performance management cycle so that organizations are able to ask themselves, what do we need from our employees to achieve our goals? What knowledge, skills, and abilities are needed? What types of work behavior is needed? The requirements need to be clearly communicated to employees so that they are aware of what needs to be achieved and how they can achieve their organization's goals. Employee performance is then measured against the organizational goals and requirements for these goals. Organizations who clearly communicate these strategic organizational goals will find it easy to implement the performance management cycle. If the goals are not clearly communicated, this will result in the performance review being inaccurate.
Expectation and resources. To perform well, employee needs to know what is expected of them. The starting point is an up-to-date job description that describes the essential functions, tasks, and responsibilities of the job. It also outlines the general areas of knowledge and skills required of the employee to be successful in the job. Performance expectations go beyond the job description. When employees think about high quality on the job performance, they are really thinking about a range of expected job outcomes. Employees should understand why the job exists, where it fits in the organization, and how the job's responsibilities link to organization and department objectives. Employee needs to understand if they need any training or course to meet organization's expectation. Monitoring and feedback. Monitoring means consistently measuring performance and providing ongoing feedback to employees and work groups on their progress towards reaching their goals. Ongoing monitoring provides the opportunity to check how employees are doing and to identify and resolve any problems early. If effective feedback is given to employees on their progress towards their goals, employee performance will improve. People need to know in a timely manner how they are doing, what's working, and what's not. Feedback should be given in a manner that will best help Since people respond better to information presented in a positive way, feedback should be expressed in a positive, accurate, factual, and complete manner. Assessment means evaluating employee or group performance against the elements and standards in an employee's performance plan. Assessment is part of the performance management process, which is a collection of communication for a certain period between the manager and the employee. Performance evaluation is usually applied for a yearly or half-yearly period depending on performance management policy of the organization. Some of the important objectives of the assessment of performance are to review the performance of employee for a period of time, to assess the gap between the current and desired performance, to help in improving relationships and communication between managers and employees. Some of the popular assessment methods which are used in the organization for assessments are peer review, self-review, upward review, 360-degree feedback, graphic rating scale, and so on.
Performance appraisal is a systematic process where the personality and performance of an employee is evaluated and assessed by a supervisor or manager. Employees are assessed by their knowledge of the job, quality and quantity of output, leadership abilities, work attitude, attendance, cooperation, etc. Performance appraisal is used in order to identify the abilities and competence of an employee for future growth and development. Objectives of a performance appraisal include to acknowledge employees based on their performance, to find out their requirements in terms of training and development for employees, to aid in communication between managers and employees, to aid employees in understanding based on their performance where they stand, to make a decision in terms of increasing employees' pay or whether to give out incentives based on an individual's performance. Advantages of performance appraisal include promotion, compensation, employees' development, communication, and motivation. Traditional methods of a performance appraisal include rating scales, checklists, essay method, cost accounting method, and so on. Modern methods of performance appraisal include management by objectives, assessment centers, 360 and 720-degree feedback.
Now have a look at this case study that we've come up with collectively. The question that we asked for this is, what is the best way that Andy can manage the performance of his sales staff? After having a read, have a think about the things that we've discussed in this presentation. Does Andy need to put in place a bonus scheme or an incentive-based approach for his sales staff? Or does more planning need to be done so that way it ensures that his employees are staying on task? Does a balanced scorecard need to be put in place to ensure that the employees are ticking off boxes, ensuring that their roles are done correctly? Thank you for looking at our presentation, and we look forward to seeing what you come up with in the discussion.